Hey, Mal Pals. Just wanted to do a quick trigger warning. This episode, we are going to cover conversion therapy. And for our listeners that are in the LGBT plus community or have family members who are, or just consider themselves allies, this can be like really triggering. And we wanted to warn you that we're going to cover some of these touchy subjects. I think the history of the medical community and its impact on conversion therapy is important for us to know. If this is something that could cause you emotional harm or trauma, just keep that in mind as we move forward in listening.
Welcome to Malpractice Podcast.
Are you ready to get started?
Yeesh. That is the fancy way of saying yes. Yeesh.
Okay, so I saw my godson this weekend, and
I was going to ask you.
He drew people on our fingers.
Mm-hmm.
First, he drew me a pirate, and then he drew me a vampire. And then on my third finger, he drew a guy with a top hat, and I was like, what is that guy? And he was like, duh, that's a fancy guy.
Duh. Hello. Good morning.
He was like, if he's wearing a top hat, he's obviously a fancy guy.
He is extremely fancy, as you know.
I've never identified with anything more.
Duh, that's a fancy guy. That's hilarious.
How was y'all's trip?
It was really good. So we went to Fredericksburg. Michelle was like, oh, I don't want her to get mad at me for saying this, but she was like...
Jess and her wife took a little mini staycation in Fredericksburg, which is like Texas wine country.
So she got like an Airbnb over a winery. So that was cute, like a little room. And then we just like had a wine tasting. And then we went to like this peach wine place. And it was really fun.
Peach wine?
Yeah, it was really good wine. We bought a bottle and drank it there.
Never in my life have I wanted anything more than I want some peach wine.
I'm drinking peach wine right now. And I'm not mad about it.
I wish
No, we
had
should go
more.
there. They also sell pizza. It's called Das Peach House. Yeah, we need to go there.
Sounds incredible.
It was really cool. But she was like, ooh, romance. Like, that's like our little joke now. Like little romance, like little wine
You
tasting.
and Michelle say that to each other now?
Yeah. Well, because she got at the wine tasting that she got us, was that
Y'all got
another?
trash.
Well, no, I didn't like any of that. I literally liked none of the wine. But I know she loves me because she got me a charcuterie tray. So it's like meat. There's cheeses.
That's how you know someone loves you.
Yeah. So I ate like a pound of cheese and apricots. I thought of you and Eric.
Oh,
dried apricots. Well, when you got proposed to, you were like, do you want some apricots? And Eric's like, I'm trying to propose to you right now. Hello.
I was like, well, I'm trying to keep you regular.
I
What do you
know.
want?
Right. So it was super cute. And it was cool because already wine tastings like are social distanced, really. Like stay away. You're only there to talk to the person you go with, but they do
to drink with whoever you came with.
Right. But like at both places, it was really safe. Yeah, I felt really good. Except at Das Peach House, this guy comes in. He has a bandana tied around his neck to protect his neck from COVID.
It smells like someone's about to start an argument.
And then one of the women that's working there, she was like, "Oh, sir."
Oh, he had it like down around his neck?
He had it around his neck, yeah, protecting his neck from COVID. And she was like, "Oh, sir,
Protect
your mask," thinking that he just forgot to put his mask on. And he was like, "My mask is on." What?
But it's very clearly
what do
not.
you mean? But I mean, physically it was on. And so then he's like this.
Oh my God. That's so annoying.
Yeah.
It's physically on you. Yes, technically. That's not what anyone means.
Nobody cares about that. So then she's like, "Sir, if you're not going to put it on, like you're going to have to go outside." And he was like, "Fine." So he puts it on. He basically falls back down. He didn't put it on.
Oh
he just
my
like was
God.
like floofed it on his face and then like walked.
He floofed
it. And we were all like, "Man, you're a dick." Like, please.
If you're going to wear a handkerchief, A, of all.
I know.
B, you have to do the thing.
Floof it correctly, my dog. Like floof.
If you're listening to this podcast and you are aggressively not wearing a mask.
Honestly, this ain't the podcast for you.
What are you doing, man? It's
We
been a
don't
whole
agree.
last year since we've been in like quarantine. We can't. It's just not the time for your
And if you're a
beliefs,
floofer,
honestly.
if you floof your mask, I
If you're
don't
floofing
like
your
it.
mask, you need to get the. Honestly, stop it. Stop it right now. Hey,
Stop it right now.
okay. So I drove to my parents' house, right?
Yep.
And on the way out to my parents' house,
Oh my
like,
God. What
you
happened?
know how they live in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's beautiful, but it is
Yes. It
is
gorgeous.
very serial killer vibes.
Yes. So, speaking of which,
Not speaking of, don't ever say speaking of which after somebody says serial killer vibes. Like, that's a quick way to end a convo.
look, I sent you a picture of a house. Look at it right now. Okay.
Don't buy
So
this house.
That house is on the way out to my parents' house. And I was driving past it. Describe it for our listeners. It's very clearly an old abandoned house and it's terrifying.
It is the house in the scary movie when like they're already being chased by the murderer, where they see a house that you definitely shouldn't go in because there's like no floor and like it's haunted, paranormal activity, and and the stupid white blonde girl is like,
always, yes.
oh my God, let's go in there. And everyone's like, what a brilliant idea, even though this girl has never had a brilliant idea in her life.
She's not the idea having type.
She's white, very rusty situations, looking like it's happened at what is left of a chimney, green shutters. It's not, I'm not going in this house. You could not pay me enough.
So I passed this house
Mm-hmm.
and I heard this story from a guy I dated in college.
Ew, which is another horror story altogether.
Okay, that's not unfair. I don't have great taste a lot of the time with men. Eric is an exception, obviously.
Yeah.
So he went in there with some of his friends.
Wait, who was it? Tell me offline.
I'll tell you offline. But they said they heard a shotgun go behind them.
I mean,
So
if you're
knowing
going to
that-
go into a house and
You
hear a
have to know.
shotgun behind you, that's the fucking house you want to go to. Like, that is a scary looking
Yeah.
house.
It's so scary. So, you know how I'm like driving, I'm by myself. I like to play out scenarios in my mind. I want to know how much someone would have to pay you to go into that house, which is
I'm not
very
going.
clearly haunted.
No, I'm not going. I'm not
There's
going
no-
into the house. I can't think of, like, they would have to put a number on a napkin and slide it to me across the table, and it would not be enough.
Like on a TV show, like this is the amount that we're willing to pay you.
I'm such a scaredy cat.
I know you're a scaredy cat.
That would have to be, no way. I'm like, that house has the devil in it,
Oh, for
probably.
sure.
I'm all about paranormal activity, all that. I'm not trying to mess with that. I'm not trying to take it home. I'm trying to keep my soul clean.
You have to,
I don't
yeah.
need any demonic
No,
presence in the age of our Lord COVID. I'm really not trying it right now.
Honestly, I would do it for probably like
Let me get the vaccine and then maybe ask me.
Fair. I'm fighting off everything from entering my body at all times. No virus,
Yes,
no possession,
uh-uh.
no demons. Get out.
Nope. Big nope. I'm not doing it. It's too
For
scary.
$10 million, would you do it?
How far in would I have to go?
All the way in. You have to tour
All the way in?
house. You have to tour the
Oh,
house.
fuck off. No. Nope.
You know you're gonna find a body. If there's not a body in there, I'll eat my shoe. There's a body in there.
Literally, I'll saute that shoe up. There's several bodies. There's like omens
100%.
and no, I'm not doing it.
Okay. I have another thing for you. I don't know if y'all have this. Eric and I have like a celebrity list of people that if they came up to you and they were like,
You know that I don't have it because I'm a psycho. I'm like, you can't ever look at anyone ever. Thank you and good day.
I just sent you a picture. And this man was at the very tippy top of my list. His name is Army Hammer. He's an actor. And he recently had some...
This guy?
That man, yes.
Okay, for everyone, he looks like any white fraternity guy is what this guy looks
He's
like.
100% the whitest person you know.
No, he is.
And he's very handsome. Anyway, whatever. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So the thing is, he recently had some tweets come out where he is a cannibal.
What do you mean? What do you mean a cannibal? What does that mean? No.
He literally was hitting on this woman. He said, I want to take your heart out of your body and hold it in my hand and control when it beats. I'm 100% a cannibal.
How do we know that he said that?
He DM'd it to this girl from his verified Twitter account.
We have to call in Agent Morgan Reed, all of the people from the
behavioral
yes, from Criminal Minds.
The BAU.
They need to be alerted to this man immediately.
He told one girl he wants to cut her toe off and keep it in his pocket.
I mean,
I mean, what? How is that situation salvageable?
no, I'm saying alert the FBI. You're telling me about toes. Like, you started with hearts and you downgraded to toes.
You're
You should have
right.
started with the hose. Should have started with the toes. And then I'd be like, yeah, that's fucking nuts. But you started with hearts and went to toes. I don't give a shit.
You're
like,
right. I buried the lead, honestly.
You
I should've
buried the
started with
lead.
toe, work your way up to heart. Damn it. I'm going to fix it in post.
no, leave it as is.
I'll go back and swap
It's
it.
authentic that way. I think you wanted to tell the crazy thing first.
I did. I wanted you to be invested in it. So
I'm invested in the fact that you have a list of people and your husband's okay with that.
we both have a list.
Because that is a wild ride. Who's on top of his list?
Scarlett Johansson, she's at the top of everyone's list. She's at the top of my list, honestly.
She's pretty.
Someone tell me she's not at the top of your list. You're lying. I know you're lying. Who would be at the top of your list?
I don't have a list.
If you
is
had
the
a list,
problem.
who would be at the top?
I don't know. It definitely would be. I don't even know their names because I only know people by the name of their person they portray on television. I mean,
Not
Callie
unfair.
Torres, obviously. Like,
Oh, okay.
I love. And then Bet from the L Word, for sure. I'm like, could I build a life with them? Michelle's
Or
like,
not.
we're married. The fuck? Yeah, literally. Okay, I did have to tell you something. Actually, Michelle brought this up to me. She was like, you need to talk about this show with Sydney. There is a new show on Netflix where it's a cooking show, so you know, I stan.
Oh, I love
And
a
then-
cooking show.
But it's also with takeout food. So it's like leftovers and they have to make new meals with takeout food.
Okay, first of all, that is brilliant.
It's
What's
crazy.
it called? What's the show called?
Best leftovers ever.
Okay.
It's good.
Like, what kind of leftovers do they use?
Like anything, like pad thai.
Oh my
And they
God,
make
what a
crazy
great
things
idea.
so they say pad thai, whatever, and they like, you have to make a fancy dish, but you can't use it in the same way that it was used. So you have to like reinvent
Oh.
the dish. Yeah.
That's a great idea.
It's
I
cool.
like that a lot.
It's cool. I watched all of it already.
I need to go watch it.
Correct. Watch
lately,
it.
I've been watching The Night Stalker on Netflix. It's a documentary about Richard Ramirez, who was like
Oh, God.
this crazy serial killer. You know, I love a true crime. I actually have been thinking
I don't like
that I
it.
should get rid of the
I
job that I
don't
want to do
like it.
and be like a forensic pathologist. I want to solve crime. No, I don't. I really don't, honestly. I just want to hear about other
Okay.
people. I want to do
No.
research about other people solving
No, but you want to
crimes
hear
and
about
talk
it.
That's
There we
what-
go.
That's what I'm doing right now, kind of.
Kind of, yeah. So I think now that we have been talking for 22 minutes about
Okay, listen. I've been kind of
shit.
trying to delay this with lots of fun conversation.
why?
Because I saw the title of the Google Doc that you sent me with your script for the episode. Oh, it's a heavy hitter. Okay, tell the people what's up.
Yeah, so this episode is about gay conversion therapy and like kind of the history and some talking points about like where it came from and then where it's at right now. though it is now normally denounced by the medical community and most good people everywhere, it was a medical practice that many suffered through originally. It was like medical.
Yeah.
Let's just start somewhere. I was trying to like format like the layout of this information. And so it just all sucks. Conversion therapy is defined as the widely discredited practice that attempts to change a person's sexual orientation or gender identity. There are 16 states that still have laws against sodomy. That's Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Mississippi, North Carolina, Oklahoma, and South Carolina. And then 3 additional states that target their statutes as same-sex relations only. And that's Kansas, Kentucky, and Texas. So that means that 16 states still deem it noteworthy to include a law against sodomy to specifically target, right, the gay community.
In those 3 states, they're specifically saying, like, you can't do this if you're in a same-sex relationship.
Right. And then the others, just like the allusion to.
Even though same-sex marriage is legal?
Well, yeah, because it's federal.
So what they're saying is, like, 2 people can get married, but they can't have sex with each other.
So that's like the problem is that every state operates in its own way, but it's supposedly falling under this big umbrella. So exactly what you said, like same gender marriage is legal. However, like states are allowed to enact specific laws that could contradict this. Now, even though they have these laws against sodomy, and I'm only putting this as the baseline, like if states have laws banning essentially people's ability to have sex, I'm just putting the playing field out there for you. So it's not good. Like there should just be a federal mandate taking this out of the state's hands also, at this point.
I mean, like, to each their own, do whatever makes you happy. I don't give a smooth fuck. But like, why should your state government have any say over like what you do in the bedroom? Ever.
Yeah.
Why, right?
And I have I think a ramble on that in a minute, but I don't like states' rights. So in 1965, homosexuality was placed on the list of diagnostic and statistical manual or mental disorders. And a year after that, President Dwight D. Eisenhower banned gay people from working for the federal government.
I didn't know that.
Like Ike.
Oof. Okay.
Yep. Did you know that the World Health Organization declassified homosexuality as a disease?
I did not know that.
They declassified it.
Okay.
Do you know when they did that?
Oh my.
When do you think the World Health Organization declassified homosexuality as a disease?
1924. It has to be early.
Oh,
right?
bitch, please. 1990s.
90s. I'm sorry. I just blew out everyone's eardrums who's listening to this in their headphones. But Jesus Christ, the 90s?
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that.
Yep. It was, homosexuality was removed from the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders in 1973.
Oof.
But it wasn't until the 90s that the World Health Organization declassified it.
Yeah.
That sucks, right? That should feel recent.
The 1990s, in my mind, are still 10 years ago. I don't care what anybody says.
Right. No, same.
I know that I was born in the
Same.
90s, and I know my age, but that feels like the 90s, feels like it was yesterday. So it has felt for a long time like society's just like more progressive than that, right? So where did these negative feelings come from?
Yeah. Society is not progressive. Society sucks. I don't even consider myself a part of society. Michael Scott. So as early as the 12th century in Europe, religious leaders condemned homosexual acts, and the religious community took it and ran with it, obviously. They were like, yeah, fuck that shit. Mm-hmm. We have to be against something.
And witches ain't cutting it anymore.
Witches were few and far between. Turns out there weren't any.
They're like, we've already burned all the witches, so we have to find something new.
All the witches are gone. Who else are we going to burn? Yeah, exactly correct. So there was a colony in colonial America where they banned being gay. Like it was illegal to be gay. And they also made it punishable by death.
Oof.
So like this is where these things come from, is this puritanical idea of how things are supposed to be. I'm not going to get into the religious ideology behind this because I really don't have time or the desire to like pick apart religious institutions today. Plus, it's not the point of the podcast. However, I'm going to mention it a couple of times because we haven't mastered the separation of church and state. And like that is really the issue from this part. Like the fact that the church could deem it illegal or a sin and then it becomes like
Accepted
punishable
by the state.
Right, exactly. So I'm going to stay as medically focused as possible. Hold me to it, Sydney.
I'll try. I'm going to put blinders on you like a little horsey.
Yeah.
Little blinders.
This is what happened. So medicine started the train of conversion therapy. Okay. Even though they jumped off. So the medicine community started conversion therapy. Then they're like, ooh, I don't think so. They jumped off the train. However, like religious leaders kept the train going and they continued using the teachings and the procedures of medical professionals to heal gay people. Right. So though medical professionals and the medical society in general is like, nah, we don't support this anymore. The practices are still used that they developed to cure gay people medically.
Yeah.
I put all the curing in quotes for people who can't see me.
Yeah. Heavy quotations.
So yes. Yeah. Big quotations around everything. It wasn't until the cultural shift focusing more on the disorder of homosexuality that the medical community started taking issue with the sexual orientation and tried to cure it. While they may not have, this is what I'm saying, they hot potatoed it back. They were like, oh my God, yeah, we got it. Oh no, you take it back. Like, we're not curing that. The religious community in the late 80s and the early 90s really focused on conversion therapy. And that's when they built up all their camps and stuff that they were doing. Yeah.
So how did the medical community even get involved in this? Like, I don't understand where it came from.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing me back on track because I will ride that train over there. Conversion therapy is super dangerous. There are several states and Washington, D.C. in which the practice is banned. Indiana could be the next one. They just introduced a ban to bill it. So take that, Mike Pence.
Yeah, he has a book about his pet rabbit, where his pet rabbit goes to a meeting of this religious council meeting, and that group of people has a history of funding conversion camps. John Oliver bought the rights to a very similarly named book about a rabbit who marries another boy rabbit.
Yay!
And all of the proceeds for that book go to the Trevor Project.
The Trevor. That's awesome. Yeah.
It's super cool.
So according to a 2018 study from the Williams Institute at the University of California, Los Angeles, over 690,000 people have undergone conversion therapy in the U.S.
Holy shit.
And loads more are likely to seek this out in the future. The same institute said that 20,000 LGBT plus youth will undergo conversion therapy of some kind before they turn 18. And several companies said they want to end this practice. It is up and coming. I believe it will be gotten rid of. I think they'll ban it. Yeah. But there were books on Amazon and on how to do conversion therapy. And there were apps that
how to do
it. And there were apps that promoted conversion therapy on Google until 2019.
And what happened in 2019? Did they take it down?
They took them down.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. Both of the companies were like, no, we're not going to do this.
If you're trying to buy a book for how to do conversion therapy, I actually think that you should end up on a watch list. I'm just going to say it. I don't know. You're a fuck if you're doing that.
Yes, right. Correct. It's shocking. The statistics are shocking. And then the fact that they just took everything down in 2019,
tell me more. I need to know more about conversion therapy because I guess when I think about it, I don't know where it comes from.
Yeah. So conversion therapy really dates back to the 1890s where this German psychiatrist, and I'm so sorry, my dog, that's this. I'm going to do my best. Albert von Schrenck-Notzing said that he had turned a gay man straight through the power of hypnosis. 45 sessions of hypnosis and a few visits to a brothel, according to journals.
How is that medically necessary? How did you bill that?
Well, it was the 1890s. I don't think they did a lot of paperwork. Remember, we said don't be burdened paperwork back in the days. At the time of this announcement, being in a same-sex relationship wasn't legal. So many doctors were looking for ways to reverse it, whatever that means.
Okay.
So that's kind of why it was medical, because people were like, it's a feeling I have. I go to the doctor when I'm sick. If it's illegal, it's against my church. I must be sick. I go to the doctor.
Okay.
3 years later, Albert will claim to have completely cured or significantly improved a total of 70 people with homosexual or other perverse inclinations. And he kicked off the idea of what we know as conversion therapy with this kind of idea of healing people through hypnosis, really. It's the easy way out.
Okay.
And forcing people to have sex with people of the other gender. Some doctors like Eugen, I'm going to butcher everyone's name and I'm so sorry. Eugen Steinak, an Austrian endocrinologist, science words, were looking into things like testicle transplantation experiences or experiments, probably is what I meant.
Oh my God.
That's right. Shock. They were literally castrating gay men and giving them heterosexual testicles from other men. Pause. I wrote the pause in for myself so I would feel the weight of that.
I got nothing. I got nothing for that.
Yep.
That's terrifying.
Because if you have gay feet, what you do is you cut your feet off.
That's how they
and you
handled
put on
it
straight
in
feet.
Footloose,
And
right?
the straight feet will lead you.
That's actually the secret plot of Footloose.
Yes.
They were like,
It's kind of
you're
like,
dancing,
what?
Your feet are causing you to dance. I'm going to chop your feet off.
Chop your feet. Feet chop. Footloose.
It's the same.
Still, other medical psychiatrists and doctors began identifying homosexuality as a mental disorder and began looking at psychiatric interventions in an attempt to cure people who had gender identities and sexual orientations different from the societal norm at that time. Sigmund Freud, I think is how you say that, right?
No, Freud is right.
He thought that being gay was more of conditioning, but he said it wasn't a disease. So he was like, it's not necessarily bad, but it's not necessarily good. He was the most progressive psychiatrist at the time because he said it wasn't an issue. It was just kind of like how you were raised. But people were not.
Yeah, Sigmund Freud has some really interesting ideas that are, some of them are crazy, but at least he was doing
He was like a moderate. He wasn't making any big statements. He wasn't upsetting the people who were wild. He's just along for the ride. But most of his colleagues did not listen to him. So shout out to lobotomies. These were included as possible therapies for homosexuality and aversion therapy. Yeah. And that's when they would try aversion.
Yeah, which we talked about that in our lobotomy episode,
so
right?
Hit up the first episode if you haven't listened about lobotomies. But then they also did aversion therapy. So this is when they would try and make the patient disgusted by homosexuality. Or like if they were people who were trans, they would make them disgusted with activities that people associated with the gender they were trying to portray. So some LGBT plus people were given electroconvulsive therapy. Treatments like shocks administered through electrodes directly implanted onto the brain. That was pioneered by Robert Galbraith Heath, a New Orleans psychiatrist. And he paired that shocking your brain with hiring prostitutes and exposing patients to hours of heterosexual porn to change gay men specifically was his goal.
Horrifying.
So I wanted to kind of like, I did some research into the quote unquote steps of perfecting aversion therapy and like what they would say would give them the results. So first they deconstructed the patient. So they would get them to hate themselves and like break down.
Already there.
Right.
Keep going.
Wow. And like hate who they were. So a lot of shaming, a lot of like blaming, all of that. Then they would get the person disgusted by homosexuality, which I mentioned before. And so how they would do that was they would expose them to chemicals under medical supervision that would make them vomit and physically ill when they saw photos of their lovers or other gay items or people.
Oh.
Yes. So they're like torturing these people and and showing them pictures of their loved ones.
That breaks my heart.
While making them physically ill. Yes. And then they would do the electrical shocks to their genitals while they were forced to watch gay porn or quote unquote cross dress, and they would shock them, like do this physical punishment. Other forms of pain inflicting torture, really, like any way that they could cause pain or discomfort and expose them to what they liked, like that was aligned with their sexual orientation or gender identity, then they would inflict the painful or negative thing.
Yeah, like conditioning therapy, basically.
Exactly. And there are also reports of medical treatments, I say that with the biggest of quotes, that were more like sexual assault, like
forcing them to have sex with prostitutes. That's crazy.
Yeah. And then like for women, they would like massage, like men would massage them in like vaginal massage. Like it's just really gross.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. I also do not.
You said this happened to how many people? 700,000?
Yeah, I can't speak to the amount of them that were exposed to the extent to what I just described, but over 690,000 people have experienced conversion therapy, and aversion therapy is practiced in conversion. Yeah, it's practiced as part of conversion therapy.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
So through these processes, there were rates reported of like 50% of the patients were healed, right? But later, those are all discredited. Like, as we know, and I don't talk about this in the episode because I want to leave it out of religion, but even the conversion therapy camps and the people who are running these programs, they find out later, like the owner will come out as gay and be like, yeah, none of this shit works. Like 50 years down the road.
Really?
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Oh, wow.
Like it just recently happened.
It's like you just were so uncomfortable with your own gayness that you like did this.
Yeah.
Ugh, that's horrible.
Yeah. So this is like my least favorite part. And I for sure am not going to say any of this right, but I'm going to do my best. So then there's this cool thing called the penile plethysmograph, which was actually I did a pretty good job saying that word, which was a device, thank you, to measure changes in penis volume in response to erotic prompts. It was created by Dr. Neil
McConaughey.
He sucks. Yeah. Doesn't matter. So this device was used in aversion therapies and conversion therapy. Nicknamed it's basically, he named it like, it's the penis lie detector. So it would avoid the inaccuracies of a normal lie detector that maybe participants of conversion therapy might lie on lie detectors. So he was like, no, we'll hook this thing up to your penis and then we'll find out how you really feel.
If a psychiatrist ever tries to hook something up to your penis, get out of there quick. Or any genitals.
Get out. And keep your genitals away from your psychiatrist. 10 out of 10 do recommend.
100%.
There's this guy, Fabian. So this Dr. Neil was treating this guy, Fabian. The Dr. Neil, that one with the penis lie detector. He said that there are two Fabians in one that loved the intimacy with men and one who hated it. So he sold the idea of inhibiting the sexuality that Fabian had. Fabian was religious and wanted to go back to seminary. So he was like all bought in at first to these therapies. And there were friends of Fabian's who were like, no, Fabian, this guy is nuts. Hit pun here. Nuts. Don't do it. But he didn't listen because he was very religious and believed that this is what he needed to do. So he goes to the psychiatrist. Yeah. He remembers he was so embarrassed because of the penis lie detector. Like they put wires on your fingers and then they put your penis in this thing and like connected it to these like metal things. And then you look at photos and sometimes there's a shock and sometimes there's not. These are like quotes from what Fabian said.
They shock you?
Yes. So as part of this treatment, Dr. Neil would use morphine and electric shocks. So morphine, it was used to make him physically ill. And then electric shocks, like to physically hurt him. These weren't used to convert his patients. This is what really sucks about Neil is like he didn't believe that he could convert anyone from being gay to straight. Yeah. He just wanted to make them not want to participate in deviant behavior. He didn't actually think he was healing anyone. He just was like...
He's like, you're still going to be gay.
I just don't want you to have sex. So bop on down to 1965. The Times published this article, Homosexuals Can Be Cured. The curing process was led by a psychiatrist named Samuel Hayden. Hayden was a professor at the University of Pennsylvania Medical School who led a 4 to 8 year therapy session for men who both identified and wanted to be cured from their homosexuality, or perversions, as they were more formally known. Patients shared and interpreted each other's dreams, cast aside their flamboyant clothing and manners, and worked through their hostilities and neuroses and began dating women, according to the reports. Marriages were saved and made.
Okay.
Hayden actually said that homosexuals are rarely cured because they actually don't try treatment. He said the reason that more homosexuals weren't cured is because Freud had convinced too many psychiatrists that it was difficult to treat.
Okay, honey.
He wasn't even the worst of the outspoken psychiatrists at the time. Irving Bieber and Charles Socarides were regularly quoted in newspapers and magazines, arguing that homosexual desire was a form of psychological maladjustment resulting from childhood. So, like, psychiatrists were out there, like, really telling people that they were sick.
Developing bullshit psychosocial theories about things they can't prove. Like, this is not science.
Exactly. And Hayden was like all about group therapy. So he would have people, and I think that's part of like manipulation is like having a group of people who really need you. And then they're reaffirming when they see other people, they're like, oh yeah, this is real. Look, there's other people here. Like we're all needing help.
Yeah.
And he's able to manipulate like larger quantities of people.
Especially if they
with his
shame
bullshit.
them and make them feel like it's not, like what they're feeling is not normal or like they're sick in some way. Like you're such an asshole if you're a doctor who does that.
Literally. So this constant bullshit over and over in articles and magazines, like radios, like it's everywhere, right? We finally get some peace after the American Psychiatric Association voted to remove homosexuality from the list of disorders in 1973. Look, we have a long way to go, right? Like the medical community signed off on this practice. Although 73, the 90s, like even the 60s, it's not that long ago.
Yeah.
And and like we feel like the chapter is closed. The problem is the self-proclaimed experts and faith-based groups started getting more involved with these kinds of practices and basically just picked it up. So like they created these camps and conferences that could pray away the gay, but they also use these medical practices. They use electroshock therapy. They use like aversion therapy and like tools. Like we're not done, but at least the medical community has like washed its hands of this.
Yeah.
For the most part, like as a whole.
Yeah. And I will say like, whatever, I'm not a psychologist. I'm more on the neuroscience side. So I don't know 100% about this, but I have heard stories about aversion therapy. There was this one specific experiment where they did aversion therapy where they got a little kid to be really afraid of a white stuffed rabbit. They would show the kid a white stuffed rabbit when he was like 3 years old, right? And then they would, show something scary in the background to like freak him out. Like basically aversion therapy to this white rabbit just for the sake of like experimenting.
Mm-hmm.
And that kid ended up with PTSD whenever he saw something white and fluffy for like 35 years down the road.
Yeah. And whose parents let them be involved in that study is the problem. Yeah, I think, that's just such a good segue. Actually, I did not know you were going to talk about that because on TikTok, I saw people sharing their experiences about having been put in conversion therapies. And it's super inspiring. And I put a link to an article that talks about it and like links to some of those videos in our show notes. So please, Malpals, read it. It's crazy because they're stories of just like kids, came out to their parents and their parents sent them to conversion therapy camps or, it's just like kind of scary stories, but they've overcome and it's just a good kind of reset on like how far we have to go. Mm-hmm. And we said like at first we're inching towards the day when all of this is illegal and conversion therapy won't be allowed. Like there are still some states who they need to outlaw it. It's like trauma. It's like torture. They need to outlaw it. It'll happen. I think it's just really slow. But states do still allow this practice. And while it's not necessarily performed by medical personnel or professionals, it was started by them. And so I think it's kind of a good reminder. It's crazy, but I think it's a good reminder that we all like have input into how things turn out. Like,
or be proactive, right? Like you can be ashamed about it, but also be proactive in stopping it. Or just saying you won't, you
won't do
very
it.
Minimum, not participating in it.
Yeah.
Or this type of like crazy bullshit. I honestly, the fact that it's still going on and the fact that people are still sending their kids to stuff like
from a mental health standpoint too, like the recovery time.
Yeah.
For some people they don't. Like kids kill themselves after going to these camps. I mean, it's just horrible.
And I think that organizations like the Trevor Project, like thank God for them, right? Like they help like homeless youth who have been kicked out because they're LGBTQ plus, and
I'll include some links to those kind of websites too. If you're ever looking for a place to donate or you're looking for like a way to get involved, they're a good place to start. Like PFLAG also, it's like a parents organization for the parents of people who identify as LGBT plus. It's super cool. And then there's like local stuff that you can get involved in too. But yeah, be part of the solution really, because
we'll link to all of that.
Fuck conversion therapy.
Honestly, thank you for doing that. For anybody, I'm sure that's like really hard to even research. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. I got so lucky. I really did. My parents are, and have always been like super
so
great. Yeah. But I just have I've heard a lot of horror stories and
so have I.
I mean, it's real. Like it's real. So, if you're out there and you need support, DM us. We'll hook you up with some resources and, you're not alone. And that's conversion therapy.
Let's campaign against it. How do we do it?
Fuck yeah. The states that have it's still legal, like we have in Texas, Equality Texas, they are actively fighting these things.
Okay. So like local level is probably the best way to get involved.
I think local level is always better. I think like nationally, let HRC, they've been, they have the thing is they have the resources and the great lobbyists, but it's the local level. That's where you can really make a change that affects you and the people that are directly, tangible to you. Absolutely. I think like that's where I would get involved.
Also, if you can get involved in some of those organizations like the Montrose Center at your local level, and you can help out like LGBTQ youth who are really struggling, that shit is invaluable.
Yes. Yeah. Do that. Yes. Thank you so much, Sid.
Thank you, Jess. That was incredible. And also heartbreaking. And I hate it. But thank you.
And you guys, we almost have 1,000 downloads. And when we do, we're going to do something crazy.
We're going to do something real crazy.
Like I don't know.
Merch?
Get drunk? What? Wine? No, yeah, merchy.
Podcast swaggeroo.
We're going to do some pod merch.
Follow us on our social media for links to this episode and more information about how you can help.
Yes.
You can also stay tuned on our social media for upcoming merch information.
Merchy.
So follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Malpractice Podcast. You can also send us a Gmail at malpracticepodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. Stay safe. Stay masked up. Malpractice makes perfect.
Get it, Malpals.
Do 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 do.